Upgrades.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another JVS movie review. Today, we are reviewing a film that I had little to no faith that this film was going to be good, and I was pleasantly, scarily, and scarily is not a word, but I'm going to use it here, scarily surprised how good this film was. And this is The Exorcist Believer. And here's the synopsis. When his daughter Angela and her friend Catherine show signs of demonic possession, it unleashes a chain of events that forces single father Vic Fielding to confront evil. And this one here is directed by David Gordon Green. It stars Leslie Odom Jr., Ann Dow, Jennifer Nettles, Lydia Jewett, who plays one of the little girls, Angela, in the film, and Olivia Markham, who plays Catherine in the film. First, the thing to think about this film is, with Blumhouse remaking all of these old horror film classics, with the Halloween series, there was so much controversy behind it. The first movie was thoroughly enjoyed by critics, maybe not so much so by audiences, and then over the last two films, that kind of reversed itself, and audience enjoyed those films versus what the critics enjoyed. Here with The Exorcist, we're kind of working on something that could be almost considered a clean slate. We are 50 years since the first and only good one to most people version of The Exorcist story came out. Since then, we've gotten multiple bad sequels. We had a show that wasn't that good. And to be honest with anybody, the original Exorcist film doesn't hold up well. All of those combined into one huge element of how could this series be successful in this time period. And here with this script, with the setup, with Blumhouse taking over, we get a director, David, who decided not to do the norm when it comes to the Exorcist franchise, which is carbon copy the first film and then give you the same thing over and over again. Here we're introduced to these characters, these two little girls who are just out in school, and then one day they go off to the woods, and then everything just jumps from that point on. And because of this setup, and because of the setup of their parents, which is also a key point here with Leslie Odom Jr., who plays the father here, and then we get to introduce to his character and his wife at a place, and then something happens when the wife is pregnant that kind of not necessarily puts a stain over their daughter's life in Angela, but a form of protection over her life. Because they decided to go down that route, which is very reminiscent of the opening of the original Exorcist, of how you kind of set up the characters to care more about them. The progression of the Leslie Odom Jr.'s character in this film is what makes this film palatable. Beyond the jump scares, which are always going to work and works to perfection in this film. It's just that his character has so much emotion and heart behind it that at times you forgive flaws in the plot of the film or necessarily flaws in the execution of the film because Leslie Odom Jr. is so good in this film. Now, again, it's the premise is always going to be the same for any Exorcist film. The setup is the same. It's what you do with the execution that separates your movie from the past. And here with David, he does an amazing job at setting up moments that captivate an audience while you're watching this film. Along with these two young actresses who do a great job at playing these, and it's not a spoiler at this point, it's an Exorcist film, playing these possessed girls. Those work wonders here. Again, it's not a perfect film, nor can it be a perfect film, because I don't believe you can make a perfect film based off of exorcism anymore, because this is a tired genre at this point. We see these films constantly. The last Exorcist film I saw that was enjoyable, Pope's Exorcism with Russell Crowe last year. Very enjoyable. The last one I thought was possibly good, The Exorcism of Emily Rose. But in between those two films, it's about 40 other possession exorcist version films. And it's because the original set the standard. Here, instead of trying to stay in the same wheelhouse, they take some amazing chances with this film, Exorcist Believer, that makes it entertaining. Sometimes you have to take risks, and when we get here with David, with the plot here, with the setup, with the shots, with having two people being possessed instead of one person being possessed, all of these are risks to push forward the franchise, and it works wonders here. Because again, behind the Exorcist movements, Jennifer Nettles and Leslie Odom Jr. do great jobs as parents who are trying to save their children. And again, with a hint of nostalgia, as we do also get Ellen back for this film, playing the same role of Chris, the mom, Reagan's mom in the first film. She comes back in this film also. Very small role, but just enough of an impact in it and enough of a nostalgia value to it, where it also brings you back to realizing, hey, this is kind of a sequel to the first Exorcist film. What this film does an amazing job is not falling into the traps of all the rest of the Exorcist sequels did. Like, they all fell into the trap of attempting to outdo the original with non-original ideas. Here we get a film that does a great job of not necessarily trying to outdo the original, but saying, hey, we're a completely different thing than the first Exorcist film. And why I'm being vague is because this is an Exorcist film. I know someone's going to ask. I'm very vague in the description of things because if you've seen one Exorcist film, you've seen them all. I don't think, again, this is a genre where originality is easy to come by. That's going to be the hardest thing to come by here. But what this film does a great job of is introducing different elements, introducing different religions into play here for the purpose of an exorcism. Like, this just didn't give you the priest who comes in and saves the day. This is a deeper film than that. And it works because it's a deeper film than that, and because it gives you and the audience more to think about, along with its execution. I think this, possibly for me, is the best cast we've gotten in any Exorcist project. This cast is great, and they work wonders. While at times it is a stretch, the second act is a little shaky as they're trying to pinpoint the plot and lay the layers down for the big conclusion in the third act. It is a bit sloppy at times there, but because the third act is executed so well, you are willing to overlook the flaws in the second act and the pacing issues at the beginning as it gets going here. It is not necessarily a fast-moving film. It's possibly 15 minutes too long, but other than that, it's not necessarily a flaw in this film, because if you're going to see a film version of The Exorcist, you kind of know what you're in for. This is not going to be a surprise. This is not going to be something that's going to jump out to you and be wholly original. You kind of know and understand, I'm here for the exorcism, and what happens because of the exorcism. That's all I'm here for. And this movie delivers that, along with scares along the way that are perfected beautifully by David. Some of them jump scares even caught me off guard, and I don't get caught off guard by jump scares, but I got caught off guard in this film. Also, the religious aspects of this film, I think, are the best executed of the series, where you don't necessarily just have one religion or one theology represented in this film. It's multiple, and that works also because it brings in a different element to the series that's not there before. Now, this is going to be for the purists who the first Exorcist film is the scariest film they've ever seen in their life. They may not like this film a lot. They may find flaws in this film. But I'm going to say, for people who are possibly in my generation and younger, who found the original Exorcist film, while a good film, not scary at all, I think this is the rebound that the series needs for the new generation. Because the new generation, the old Exorcist film, the first one, the 73, is not scary. It's more comedy than anything else. But here we get Not necessarily an updated version of that film, but an updated version of what an Exorcist film could be. And because of that, we get a film that is full of scares. Yes, it has its flaws at times, but anchored by the performance by Jennifer Nettles and Leslie Odom Jr., I think you get a thoroughly good, scary horror slash future Halloween film that for the month of October, I think people are going to absolutely enjoy watching. So, The Exorcist Believer, which drops, I want to say it's October the 6th, so it drops this week. Out of a possible 10, I'm going to give The Exorcist Believer an 8 out of 10. This is an enjoyable horror film. And at this point, again, nothing new under the sun with an Exorcist film, but the execution is what separates this film from those horrible sequels and makes it something that I think an audience can thoroughly enjoy and just sit back in a dark theater and just be scared for a minute. It really works wonders in that sense. For me, it's a complete rebound from everything we've seen from Exorcist, and I know it's blasphemous for some people, but it's also almost a rebound from the original Exorcist, which again I think is a comedy more than scary. This one does a great job at balancing emotion with horror. And again, I can understand it's going to be people, purists of this franchise, that are absolutely not going to enjoy this film. But for everyone else, everyone under the age of 60 or 50, I think this is the film for you to watch. And this is the film that could put faith back into this franchise, which is the most important aspect as this franchise moves forward with this new trilogy. But when you get a chance to check it out, let us know what you think. This has been another JVS movie review. Peace, people.